Well, just a quick little sort of top-down view on DXY at the moment because we're seeing some what I think is a fairly constructive telltale signs for the dollar at the moment. And if we start on a weekly, we can see that obviously this little ranges that have been forming. Now, if we go way back, because this is a weekly, we can see the first half of last year was really where it got hammered. This is all due to sort of like Trump saying he wanted a weaker dollar, the tariffs, all this kind of yada yada. But really, for the second part of the month, the second part of the year, if you can see, this is where June kicked in. It really just hit a range and top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. Now, I put a couple of posts up and I said that sort of like, and this goes for sideways ranges, goes for channels. Once you sort of break the structure, i.e., you've got a bottom, you got a top, you got a bottom, got a top. This move not coming down to touch that bottom over there means that we've got a break of structure. The buyers have said, hey, look, this is where we're prepared to buy and push it up from. That's fine, they sell it down. Buyers have now moved to this point over here. The emphasis now becomes back on this 100 level. And we can see that this is being respected. Sellers were here. If I can get the point on there. Sellers were here. Sellers were here. Sellers are here. So what we need to see for continued US dollar strength is obviously, firstly, a test of this level here to see, are the buyers still there? Because there's only so much ammo that anyone will have at any level. And this goes across all time frames. Obviously, this is on the weekly time frame, so it's a lot more significant. So the test will come at 100, 102 into this zone here. You most likely will see another pushback from here. Doesn't mean it's going to hold forever. The idea that we've actually seen the buyers push up here shows that the indication is firstly to test this, secondly to apply pressure and push up through that level. Should we see a breakthrough there, you have the RSI turning over from 45 or so, around that 50 mark. This will support a move potentially to carry on. Now, if you can see with US dollar, this has been an exceptionally long base. It takes a long time to turn around. It doesn't turn around on the dot, except for this one right here. But you know what I mean. It takes a while and multiple attempts before it does shift. Once it actually changes and moves like this, most likely it's not going to come up for a week or two and then come down. We're going to see more likely a move potentially through to the middle part of the year with US dollar strength continuing through there. There's going to be a lot of people that are short over this level over here. Should we get up there, that's going to feed the initial move with the stops. And then the fact that sort of we're starting to change course, that means that, look, we could realistically be looking at 102 to 104 for the next reasonable levels of resistance on a weekly time frame. Now, if we get down onto the daily, we can see it had its channel break, retest, the breakout point, higher high, and on its way. Certainly not without its sort of issues in that at the moment. We've had sort of, if we get down even lower onto the 4 hour, we can see through this period we had ISM miss, knocked prices down, prices recovered, ADP miss, knocked prices down, recovered, moved up over to here. We had NFP, knocked prices down, recovered. We had the Fed, knocked prices down, recovered. Do you notice a sort of theme with this? It's sort of like that every time we're getting something that is a perfect explanation for why the market should just be dumping US dollar. After that initial knee-jerk reaction, market digests that news and goes, you know what? Given our whole equation, given the idea that, jobs have been in trouble, the economy's looking rough, the independence of the Fed's in question, we've got Iran war happening potentially, we've got Greenland takeover, we've got the US potentially having issues with the EU, all this stuff combined, and the market says, yeah, we get that, and we've factored that in, and the correct price is seemingly up over here, if not higher. Obviously, the price will sort of dictate with this stuff. But the key takeaway with this is that it's selling down. Here's the sellers, retest, sellers were there, push through. Sellers were here, sellers were there. The rebound, the pushback down, very much in line with where those previous sellers were. So the people that were short here, they're going, hey, you know what? I've got a chance to get out. I'm getting out. Bang, it's moving forward. We could expect to see the same moves coming up through these levels here as well. The fact that we've had 4 or 5 sort of justifications for a continued sell down on the dollar, and it's still pushed up through there, I think is a telltale sign that we're going a bit higher. I think that this could potentially be something that, as I said, carries on for minimum a month, if not a little bit longer. And we've seen the metals detach from the dollar movements, but I think once it proves itself, once it actually gets above 100, I don't see how they can continue to sort of just be punching metals higher and higher and higher. There's no real sort of reason to it, or rhyme or reason. Okay, yes, all those sort of factors I mentioned 2 seconds ago about the sort of Greenland, Iran, Fed, all these kind of things. Yes, that is a sort of a thought of okay, yep, let's go with the US, with metals. However, this is because all in all, like although we've got this nice little push up and it's looking like it wants to sort of come through the top here, once it proves itself out of this actual range, which it's been in for 6 months, better part of 6 months, where we're talking back into May. So actually, what's that said? 8 months now. Once we start to push out of that sort of 8 month consolidation of a range at the lows, I imagine that's going to be the time that we definitely sort of start to see metals go, okay, let's get on board with this. Because at the moment, this is still, even though everything constructively looks like it wants to break higher, we are still technically in this range. This isn't a confirmation. This is an early indicator. The early indicator puts the emphasis back on the breakout point, which is obviously this at 102 level over here. It doesn't guarantee the breakout. However, should we get the breakout, then I think that will shift the dynamics of the market in regards of sort of metal and obviously sort of US dollar strength through till end of the first half of the year.